Deadline week and things are sure to heat up. I never played in the NHL. Ken Belanger sure did. But I'll tell you this. In 248 career games, you only scored 11 more goals than I did. Isn't that remarkable?
11 big goals. They were
11 big goals. How do you figure they were all big?
Scored two in one night against the Sharks when I was with the Kings to keep us alive in a playoff race. I don't know how big you can get.
Were you playing on a line with Gretzky?
No, Gretzky was his jersey was in the rafters. I was playing on the first line though. We had a first line injury.
Did you steal that jersey from the rafters?
That jersey behind me is significant. When I first signed as a King as a free agent, Gretzky was my idol growing up. We went to the team golf tournament, and I was in an auction bid against another fan, and I ended up paying $1,100 for that autographed Wayne Gretzky jersey behind me. I was proud to pay that.
Was it a game worn?
It's not a game worn jersey.
So you got really ripped off, is what you got to say.
You know what? I did get ripped off. I got caught in the heat of the moment. It was a Wayne Gretzky autographed jersey, which I probably could have got for $100, but it was a charity cause, and it was my first outing with the team. I wanted to show them I was there to support.
Fair enough. Let's get right into it. Deadline week coming up, and I want to ask you about some significant trade stories that's happened. Give me one that's happened to you.
Well, I'll give you a couple quick ones there. My junior one was my probably most difficult transition. I was my second year with the Ottawa 67s. Got the call from the coach. We traded you to Guelph Storm. I was able to digest that. Then Guelph Storm called me and said, we'd like you to come to Kingston tonight. We have a game. So I said, no big deal, and looked at the schedule. The first game as a Guelph Storm was back in Ottawa the next night. So I had a little anxiety. I jumped in one of the team management that had come and picked me up, drove to Kingston. I was late for the game, so didn't end up playing that game that night. Slept that night in a hotel with the Storm, met all the players, and bussed back to Ottawa the next day. Showed up that game, was very nervous. I was 18 years old. First game against my old teammates. I was just sitting on the other benches. You can imagine the anxiety I had. I had a Guelph Storm jersey on as opposed to a 67 jersey. The guy I got traded for was Freddie Oduya. Went out my first shift against him, challenged him, knocked him out. Went out my second shift, scored a big goal, got all the bugs out, and next day the headlines in the papers, why could you do that when you're with us? So it was kind of funny. And then the unfortunate thing is, when you do get traded, you don't get a chance to say goodbye to a lot of people. My land parents were great. They actually packed my bags and brought them to the bus after the game. So that was probably, as I was learning the ropes. And then, as we carry on to my second one in the minor leagues, I was having a great year. 16 goals. I think I had 30 assists, 220
That was the last time you scored, wasn't it?
It was the last time I significantly had a great scoring season. So I got traded. Anyways, I made it to the All-Star game that year, which we already seen the All-Star jersey behind me hanging there in red. Not too many people have those. So I played that game, scored a couple goals that game once again. Went on to that road trip. I packed clothes. We were going to Prince Edward Island, so I packed just a suitcase of clothes, a couple suits, and a couple pairs of underwear for like a 5-day trip. I ended up going to Prince Edward Island and was in that big trade with the Dion Phaneuf and Kirk Muller with the Leafs and the Senators. It was a 3-team trade. I got traded that day to the Islanders, so I flew from. It was a long day. I flew from PEI all the way out to Edmonton in order to play the game. Got delayed, couldn't make the game. Right after the game, got back in an airplane, flew back to Calgary. So I had about 20 hours of flying in that day. So that was my experience of my minor league trade. Once again, didn't make it back to my house in St. John's. My roommate packed all my bags and shipped the box out to me. So my house come in a box. It was pretty convenient. Then my third trade to the Bruins, which was was a significant trade. I really love the Bruins organization. A road trip to Montreal. Coach calls me in game day. We've traded you to the Bruins. I was pretty excited. So I'm at the airport waiting to get through customs. Couldn't get through. I was at the airport for 10 hours waiting for visa to get through. So finally,
why is it so hard to get a visa these days?
Well, U.S. Customs, all the ground patrol. It was because I was playing for the Islanders. I had a visa to work in New York, but I was in Canada, so the Canadian Customs didn't allow me through. Because my visa had expired as a New York Islander. Because I was traded, I was now employed by the Boston Bruins. So So I was stuck at the border for about 10 hours, finally got the visa through. Once again, didn't make it back to my house in New York. Called my wife during this process and told her we'd been traded to the Bruins. She had, over time, packed the house up and shipped it, did never return back to my house in New York, and which was, kind of difficult. I had a lot of great neighbors and, all your personal belongings that I didn't get to pack up and say goodbye to a lot of great people. So those are sort of, my stories. Nothing too tragedy, but, it goes back to the same thing again where, when you get traded your life, you get picked up and it's gone.
So being around the league as long as you were, word gets passed of weird trade stories. Tell me something really weird that you heard.
One of the ones I heard a while back was the Dion Phaneuf one. I believe it was from Montreal to San Jose. He was actually in the air on the airplane, and he was up talking to one of the reporters, and something come across the wire, and the reporter said, "Hey, Vinny, you've just been traded." I believe that was the San Jose one. So he went back and he kind of had digested for a sec. The plane landed, dropped the team off. He actually stayed right on the plane and flew back to Montreal. So that was kind of a weird way of finding out from a reporter.
So he had his phone on the plane? Was his phone in the on position on the plane?
I'm not about to disclose that type of information right now. All I know is he said he was traded.
Did you just say alls I know?
Alls I know.
Alls I know. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Saturday night, about a week ago, Dion Phaneuf's on the ice. Chris Neil takes a run at Darryl Boyce, hits him right in front of Phaneuf. Phaneuf does nothing about it. I want to ask you, what do you expect out of a captain?
Well, not that. A guy who wears a visor and is making $5 million a year.
6.5.
There we go, 6.5. I forgot that 1.5. Sorry, my mistake. What the problem is this day and age is that your true captains aren't your true captains. They put a C on Phaneuf. They wanted to give him responsibility. Brian Burke wanted him to jump out of his shell like he was his first couple years in Calgary. And I think he felt by putting the C on him, he'd be that leader. His leadership may be in the dressing room. I don't see his leadership on the ice as a true captain. He's either got to be a captain that's going to be scoring 30 goals a year for them, or he's going to be a voiceful captain. Someone as Morrow in Dallas, who's very voiceful, but yet will step up, for the team at any given time and for his players.
If you're going to make $6.5 million, you better do something a little bit more extensive than have a large voice in the locker room. Like, that's not acceptable. If you look at Dion Phaneuf's point total since he came into the league, they have gone from here to here to here, and they've dropped every single year. So if he's not going to back up his teammates, what good is he? He doesn't even hit anymore.
Absolutely, I agree. Now, doesn't his play, his leadership reflects the Maple Leafs organization right now as a team? Nobody's accountable. There's a lot of guys making money. We're not sure if they're going to show up each night. They do show up. They play good. When they don't show up, they play like shit. So his personality reflects almost the Leafs organization, and I don't know if they want to be in that direction.
But Brian Burke is a guy who's come on record and said, I like it when my players back each other up. And Dion Phaneuf is notorious for not doing that. So why does he get to wear the C when a guy like Luke Shen or a guy like Colby Armstrong, who would literally go out there and die for his teammates, gets nothing?
Well, I think that was an easy way for them to justify, like I said, it's an easy way for them to justify why they're paying so much money, because he's our captain, he's our leader, so he's real important to us. And it's on the other side, it's a big captain's thing. They want him to be the leader. They want him to be that guy that steps up to the plate, protects everybody. Apparently he's not.
I'll tell you exactly what they want. They want Dion Phaneuf to be their prized acquisition, and they want people to see him with the C on it and say, whoa, look how good of a job management in Toronto did. They got Dion Phaneuf out of Calgary, and now he's their captain. I'll tell you what, he is the worst captain in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he doesn't deserve to wear the C when there's a guy like Luke Shen on the bench who deserves it so much more. Now, having said that, why don't we try something that we did last week?
Sure. What the hell do you know about hockey? You never played. I got a couple questions for you.
All right. Fire away.
Okay, first question, Bettman's comments to the Oilers organization, how they're in trouble without a new arena. Phoenix County, brand new arena. Tell me about it.
I have a huge problem with it. I can't stand that he said it. I look at that and I say, well, Phoenix got a new arena. What the hell did it do for the league? It did nothing but cause them headaches. Just because you get a new arena doesn't guarantee anything. And I think that if you were an owner of a team, you would rather have great fans in a crappy arena in the outskirts of Edmonton than no fans in a great arena in the outskirts of Glendale, Arizona. There's no need for a new arena for the Edmonton Oilers right now. Maybe a few years down the road, fine. But if that's the case, then why was Bettman so eager to keep the team in Phoenix?
Color commentators in the Leafs, watching a Leaf game, I've yet to ever hear a Leaf goalie let in a bad goal or a Leaf player make a bad play. Does this help the team? Does this help the fans?
No, it's ridiculous because the fans in this city are the smartest hockey fans in the world. Aside from maybe Montreal, Calgary, all across Canada, people know this game. They understand it. And the color commentators that do the Leaf games are ridiculous. They never criticize players. No Leaf goalie's ever let in a bad goal. When fans at home watch and see that, wow, that was a terrible goal, they hear elsewhere, they hear otherwise on the broadcast that stuff like that isn't happening. And it drives me nuts to watch the games and know so much about hockey and not get to hear the proper perspective because they have to cover for their owners and they have to cover for the guys that write the paychecks for them.
Western Conference. We got from 4th place at 73 points, 11th place 68 points. How does this affect the trade deadline when it comes down to teams making decisions whether they're buyers or sellers?
Well, I don't think you can make decisions based on a couple weeks of play. I think you have to look at the broad picture and say, if we haven't been great all season, but we're hanging around the playoffs because all of these 3-point games, then maybe it's just not our year. There's no point in selling the future and trying to get assets back that can help us now. Not a lot of teams are going to make stupid moves this year. I've seen over the past 5 years, GMs have gotten smarter and smarter and smarter as the years have gone by. And I think this year, none of the GMs are going to bite to sell all of their future for a chance to make it maybe one round in the playoffs, maybe two. But I think that the parity comes from the problem with 3-point games. The problem is when you're chasing teams in the playoffs and one of them plays the other and one of them gets the 1 point and the other gets the 2 for winning an overtime or a shootout, it's a huge problem for the team trying to catch up. It's almost impossible to make up ground. Now you can get from 15th to 13th, as we've seen the Devils do, or 15th to 12th. But can you go from 12th to 8th and into the playoffs? I don't think so. I think the NHL should look at what European soccer does in the Champions League and say, you get 3 points for a win in regulation, and if you go to overtime and you win, you get 2 points. You get 1 point for being there. Have a nice day, and that's the end.
Do you think Gary Bettman looks in the mirror in the morning time and combs the little hair he has and says, damn, I'm a smart guy for putting in that salary cap?
Well, he's found a way to keep guys like you in the game, has he not?
He actually got me out of the game. That guy cost me a lockout year and cost me a contract.
He cost you the lockout year, but did you play in 05-06?
I played a half a year. They couldn't afford me, so I shut it down.
Did you get paid for the whole year?
I did, and I walked away from a contract.
What do you mean you walked away?
I walked away from a contract very contentiously. I was probably not too many guys can actually say they've actually ended the game on their own terms. I actually ended the game on my own terms. I had a contract.
You walked out of the game that you love on your own terms. So did the guy over your right shoulder, did he not?
He did. That's what we have in common.
So you and Wayne Gretzky have more than one thing in common, other than that you bid on his jersey and you left the game the same way he did. You didn't do your lap around the rink waving hands to everyone, did you?
I didn't do the tour. Not yet. When I bring my biography comes out, we may do the tour.
How about this? At the end of the episode right now, start waving to the camera and say goodbye.
Thanks, everybody, for your support. Everybody through the tough times, media. Thank you.
You're not dying.
That was my rally, my goodbye. I'm coming back next week. Excited.
Man. Listen to the code on hockeyprimetime.com. Ken Belanger. I'm Corey Landsberg. We'll be back next week.